Welcome back, fight fans! Today we delve into an unbelievable, behind-the-scenes breakdown of the shocking championship upset that shook the MMA world to its core, revealing the hidden physical toll and extreme camp drama that altered the course of a superstar's career. Firstly, in the shockwave at the Prudential Center. When the final bell rang inside the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey, the entire mixed martial arts landscape came to a sudden halt. Sean Strickland pulled off a monumental upset, defeating the previously unbeaten and terrifying Chechen force Khamzat Chimaev via a razor-thin split decision to recapture the UFC Middleweight Championship. Heading into this high-stakes showdown, sportsbooks heavily favored the champion, placing Strickland as an enormous 4-1 underdog. The consensus opinion was that Chimaev would effortlessly blast through the challenger. In the opening frame, that exact narrative seemed to be playing out. Chimaev performed precisely as expected, suffocating, relentless, and incredibly dangerous. He completely overwhelmed Strickland under a wave of continuous takedowns, heavy back control, and multiple deep rear naked choke attempts. However, everything shifted drastically in the second round. Having weathered the initial onslaught, Strickland reclaimed the center of the octagon. He systematically shut down Chimaev's subsequent wrestling attempts while continuously stinging him with crisp jabs and fluid boxing combinations. The champion visibly slowed down after his explosive start, a regression that became glaringly obvious in the third frame. During that round, Strickland completely dominated the striking statistics, outlanding Chimaev by a staggering 43-29 in significant strikes. Most shocking of all, Chimaev didn't initiate a single takedown attempt in the third round, choosing instead to repeatedly walk directly into Strickland's piston-like jab. This wasn't a tactical choice, it was the reality of a world-class athlete's body entirely giving out. The third and fourth rounds played out completely on the feet, featuring a classic clash of styles. Chimaev relied on fewer, heavier power shots, while Strickland countered with overwhelming volume. In the final round, Chimaev managed an early takedown, but Strickland quickly scrambled back to his feet. For the remainder of the fight, the two warriors traded heavy leather. The champion landed the more impactful individual strikes, but the challenger answered back with his relentless output. When the judges' scorecards were collected after 25 minutes of grueling action, two officials saw the bout 48-47 in favor of Strickland, while the remaining judge scored it 48-47 for Chimaev. This split verdict successfully propelled the controversial American back to the pinnacle of the 185-pound division, nearly 3 years after his legendary upset over Israel Adesanya. So the despair in the champion's corner? In the immediate aftermath of the decision, top lightweight contender Arman Tsarukyan appeared even more devastated than Chimaev himself. Tsarukyan, who served as a primary cornerman for Chimaev on that fateful Saturday night, instantly dropped to his knees on the canvas the moment Bruce Buffer read the official decision. He remained collapsed on the floor of the cage for a prolonged period while Strickland celebrated his newly regained title. Tsarukyan's visceral reaction stemmed from a place of profound despair because he had personally witnessed the alarming near-fatal tribulations Chimaev endured just to make it into the octagon. Following the defeat, Tsarukyan took to Instagram, posting, "We fought our hearts out tonight, and everyone watching knows what really happened." This message extended far beyond a mere complaint about the judges' scorecards. It was a nod to a terrifying behind-the-scenes ordeal that was slowly starting to surface. Shemtorordap is in Edjon Bersenetsam, Demintulbi Team, also in a catastrophic weight cut and body shutdown. The root of the disaster traced back to the preparation phase. Chimaev endured a brutal weight cut for this UFC 328 title defense, which becomes understandable when analyzing his starting point. He began his official training camp a massive 50 pounds over the middleweight championship limit. He was essentially walking around at the size of a completely different weight class, yet the UFC expected him to defend a belt at 185 pounds. One Borz. According to Khamzat's brother Artur, the promotion had initially promised Chimaev a light heavyweight bout against Jiří Procházka. Consequently, Chimaev had intentionally bulked up his physique to prepare for a 205-pound contest. When the UFC abruptly pivoted and requested him to headline at middleweight, the sudden drop to 185 pounds became a logistical nightmare, entirely destroying his cardiovascular gas tank. Archer later disclosed the harrowing details of the final hours before the weigh-ins. There was an issue with the weight cut. The question became whether to cancel the fight or take the risk. When there was 1.2 kilograms left, his body shut down. Chimaev expressed severe doubts to his team, stating he had no idea how he could possibly compete in such a compromised state. With nearly 3 pounds left to shed, his system completely revolted. Though he eventually stepped on the scale as the final athlete to weigh in, looking entirely gaunt and hollow-eyed, he technically made the official limit, but the extreme damage had already been done. For the very first time in his professional career, Chimaev completely ran out of gas inside the octagon. Nialmizn addition in the green bile and $1 million offer. Former UFC bantamweight champion TJ Dillashaw, who was present for a major portion of the UFC 328 camp, brought even more disturbing details to light. Dillashaw revealed that Chimaev put his life in the hands of a weight-cutting routine that nearly proved fatal. He observed Chimaev violently vomiting green bile during the depletion process, a terrifying physical indicator of a body completely breaking down and emptying vital fluids rather than just shedding water weight. According to Dillashaw, the situation became so desperate that Chimaev was genuinely willing to pay Strickland $1,000 out of his own pocket just to transition the bout into a catchweight contest to halt the weight cut. Compounding these issues is Chimaev's known medical history. He operates with only half of a functioning thyroid. This condition severely impairs his natural metabolism, making an unscientific extreme weight cut exceptionally dangerous. Tsarukyan confirmed these terrifying final hours, noting that Chimaev hit a literal wall when he was less than a single pound away from the championship mark. Tsarukyan explained he had to cut 13 pounds. Last day he had to cut 12 or 13 pounds. First 9 pounds was easy, and then he felt bad during the night. And then he woke up and said to us, "I feel so weak and like no energy. I don't know how I'm going to cut this last 4 pounds, but we just pushed him so hard." In addition, what makes this physical collapse incredibly perplexing to Tsarukyan is that Chimaev displayed flawless cardio during their live training camps in Sam Calavita's famous garage gym. When popular streamer Adin Ross questioned Tsarukyan on whether the weight cut caused the stamina collapse, Tsarukyan admitted his confusion, noting that Chimaev routinely pushed through intense 25-minute wrestling rounds in the gym without ever showing signs of fatigue. While figures like former UFC fighter Sergio Kubkakaramonov heavily criticized Calavita on social media, labeling him the worst SNC coach in MMA history due to over-intensity, Tsarukyan defended the training structure. He clarified that Chimaev's final sessions a week out were a safe 15 to 20 minute taper. Instead of blaming gym overtraining, Tsarukyan pointed directly at the extreme use of the sauna on the final day, stating Chimaev's body simply cannot handle the severe physical shock of acute sauna dehydration. This chaotic environment stood in stark contrast to Chimaev's previous championship camps against Robert Whittaker and Dricus du Plessis, where he trained under Olympic wrestling coach Salim Nagoev in highly secluded, recovery-focused environments. Without a disciplinarian like Nagoev to firmly say no, Chimaev's relentless mentality drove him past the brink of safety. Big crisis, the actual fight remained exceptionally close. While Tsarukyan publicly vented on social media, claiming they got submitted by the judges, official veteran judges Eric Colon and Sal D'Amato ultimately awarded the 48-47 decision to Strickland. This verdict was mirrored by the MMA community, as 64.3% of 1,493 fan scorecards submitted on MMA decisions agreed with Strickland winning. Immediately after the bout, a depleted Chimaev informed Dana White that he intended to permanently vacate the division and move up to light heavyweight. However, as the dust settled, Chimaev's team reversed course, stating he is now entirely obsessed with staying at 185 pounds to secure a rematch with Strickland. Though Dana White initially dismissed the possibility of an immediate rematch, Tsarukyan insists Chimaev can safely conquer the middleweight limit with proper adjustments, specifically by ensuring he enters fight week only 10 pounds over the limit rather than a massive 15 pounds. Thank you all so much for watching today's deep dive, and we truly appreciate your continued support. To spark some discussion in the comments below, do you believe a fully healthy Khamzat Chimaev easily defeats Sean Strickland in a rematch, or has Strickland simply found the perfect blueprint to permanently neutralize Chimaev's terrifying style regardless of the weight cut?